So we're out in the woods on this beautiful, balmy, 50-degree March day, collecting sap. This is the beginning, the real beginning of the sugar season.
We just collected these last night, didn't we?
Yeah, we collected these yesterday evening, around probably 4 o'clock, and they're a decent way full. So we're going to collect them. It's probably about, I don't know, 3 o'clock now. So I think there's still maybe a little while to go. Maybe it's 2 o'clock, I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, we're collecting some sap. We're going to boil some down too, and you guys will check that out. Right now, we're just going throughout all of our taps. We have some over here. Gone and collected those. There's some over that way. There's a bucket, and then there's a bunch more over there, and then some further down the road too. Our little homestead's right there. You can kind of see our chicken coop. And we're kind of above the homestead land right now. So we're gonna keep walking, keep collecting some sap, and you guys will see how much we got when we're finished. As you've probably noticed if you've watched our videos for any length of time, we are pretty frugal when it comes to spending money on stuff, especially when there's perfectly good other stuff hanging around. So we only had about 25 sap buckets, but we had about 35 spiles. So we had a bunch of milk jugs from when we were carrying water, and before we were buying raw milk, that we return our jars and get our jars back and all that stuff.
From my parents.
Yeah, or Shakoi's parents brought them up to us. So we've been using those for sap buckets basically. There's a couple there. There's one further over this way. We've got a bunch more. There's one over there. There's a few more behind me. So we've got about 10 of those. And they do the job pretty well. This one over here yesterday, we were going to collect it, and it was full. So we had a whole gallon of sap in one day, so that was pretty cool. This is the second day that it's been beautiful 55 degree weather here in northern Vermont in mid-March. And it's a bit windy right now, but the sun is shining and it is beautiful out. Sugaring time. This is another one that we tapped with a jug, and apparently it's full today. Some of them are just starting to run today, so there's very, very little in the buckets, and obviously some are running quite well. This is full almost to the brim. Can't really get any fuller because that hole, so we're gonna empty it and probably drink some because it's awesome. I don't know what makes this one run more. Maybe it's just because it's in the sun right now. It's facing south. It's getting plenty of sun, so that could be it. So right now we are boiling off the sap. We started off the day with about maybe 12 gallons or so, and we are boiling off what we have left. So we filled these both with, let me explain the setup real quick. So this is a super simple, you know, looks like a post-apocalyptic setup, but it's just we weren't really prepared this year, having so much else going on. But anyhow, we have 2 soaking wet cedar logs. We have, if you watched our videos before, you know we've got lots of cedar everywhere from the logging that was done before we bought the property. We are just using a bunch of small diameter and split cedar for firewood. We've got an aluminum ladder that we dug out of the back of a barn for free. We're using that. Hopefully that's not going to be damaged by a fire. I don't think it will be. And then some old refrigerator or freezer grates, and then some shock pots. So this is pretty good for a small setup. It leaves a lot of room for improvement, a lot to be desired, but it works. And depending on how often and how carefully you tend the fire, it can be pretty efficient. So what we're doing now is we're boiling all the water out of the sap. As we mentioned in our last video, sap is mostly water. It takes 40 gallons of sap to get 1 gallon of syrup. So we're really only boiling it down right now because we use it every morning for coffee and we don't have any maple syrup left. And it's pretty warm right now. Otherwise we'd be storing the syrup as we have in you see a blue jug right there. That's about 7 gallons. We have like 4 of those. Not that color, but other ones that we were gonna plan on storing up to about 25 gallons at once. So we'll see how that goes. But right now, in the meantime, we're boiling this down. We've got to get most of the water out of it. Doesn't matter if it's not boiling; it's just steaming. So that's water vapor escaping. So I'm just going to continue feeding the fire, and then when they get down low, we can add what we collected today, or we can save that and we can take this inside when it gets lower, put it in a smaller pan and finish it off, which gets it closer to that boiling stage. And I'll talk more about that later. So while I'm tending the fire and boiling down the sap, Shakoi is scraping, well, not scraping, stretching and getting the rest of the membrane off of the sheepskin that we started. Hopefully I'll have another video sort of detailing that process coming up. But it's hard to do stuff off grid and keep your laptop charged and stuff. We've had plenty of sun, so expect some videos coming soon, folks. So we're taking turns doing this because
another thing you can show them too. Our solar setup is different now.
Oh yeah. That's kind of out of necessity, but
yeah, well, of course.
But yeah. So we're stretching this out and getting that nice and soft and pliable. This is our first try at a fur-on sheepskin. So hopefully it'll come out nice and we can use it as a throw or some clothing or something like that. It's pretty labor intensive, so that's why we're taking turns and getting there with it.
So this is the boil we want. This was full and it boiled down halfway, and then we dumped it into this one, so this one's the finishing pot. Eventually this will boil down about halfway. Then we'll bring it inside to finish it so we can monitor the temperature. We refilled this one and the fire is kicking. So yeah, when you're boiling you want to get a nice boil. So we realized we needed a skimmer and we didn't have one, but we improvised and used a piece of screen that we had hanging around, some wire, a stick. Now we're able to screen off all the gunk. So really all that gets in it is debris, maybe wood ash every once in a while, or some embers that jumped in, but it works well.
So we're boiling on into the night. We added, or I think Shakoi covered it earlier, we put the rest of this one into this one. Now this one is a little less than halfway full, and this one is also about halfway full. This one's probably about like a third full. So we're waiting for it to get a little bit lower. We're going to combine them again, and then we're going to finish it off inside. We'll probably do that tomorrow, and we will discuss the nuances of finishing off syrup as we understand it. We've only finished it off once before, and that was like, I don't know, a week ago. We had maybe 2.5 gallons, and we got like less than like a half a pint of syrup. So and it was good. It tasted good, but the consistency wasn't as syrupy as it should have been. So hopefully we can correct that this time. Stay tuned. Alright, Boiling Sap Volume 2. We were able to borrow a proper boiling pan. So this helps because it's not as deep as the stock pots were. There's a much shallower, wider base, so it allows for greater surface area for the heat to reach. So we started the fire about, I don't know, half an hour ago, and we got a little bit of wood here. We'll be spending the day boiling and basically cutting up a lot of the cedar, splitting it, and also collecting smaller stuff. It's boiling pretty good right now. Well, it's not boiling, but it's steaming pretty good right now. It should be boiling pretty soon. The only problem that we ran into with this whole setup, and we kind of foresaw that, was we had to replace these logs. But we've got lots of them. We were thinking about getting something like cinder blocks and setting up, cinder blocks this way and the other way. And in the back, we also have some spare chimney pipe that we could use to create a lot of draft. But the problem is we can't drive down here. So as you can see, our truck is not here. Our truck is still up at the top of the hill. So cinder blocks are a no-go. We don't have any extra ones laying around. Actually, we may have one or two laying around, but they're buried in snow. So this will have to do for now. Next season we'll have a better setup for sure, but make do with what you got, right? So we have been boiling for a couple hours now, maybe about 2 or 3 hours now. We're taking a lot of the cedar that we have hanging around here, cutting it up, splitting it up. This setup actually works pretty good. We can put wood to dry there and there since it's been covered in snow. You know, some leaning up against this way. It's reduced by probably about an inch or two since we started boiling at about 10 o'clock this morning. So hopefully it's gonna keep reducing. Well, it will keep reducing. We've just got to keep this fire going. And here's our midday snack. When we are picking all the berries that we have on the property and other stuff like this, well, mostly blackberries and raspberries, what we do to preserve them is we just put a little bit of maple or honey in there and cover it with boiling water, and then sometimes we will water bath can it for 10 minutes, but other times we just make sure there's really boiling water and it seals itself, and voila, it's preserved.
You do with any berry.
Yeah.
Any berry, high acid, and less sugar.
Right.
You don't add a lot of sugar.
Right. But this is great because we can have it whenever we want. It's better, more versatile than jam.
More nutritious.
More nutritious, yeah, because it's not, and it's also not being water bath canned. You leave a lot of the nutrients in there. And then we can use the berries for yogurt, for baking, for eating with cereal, eating just regular. Yeah, it's an awesome way to preserve berries in the summer for months in the cold or so warm. So here it is, almost 6 o'clock in the evening, and the sap has boiled down quite a bit. It's hard to see, but I'd say it's boiled down about 6 inches. So I'm thinking with the number of gallons of sap that we had, it was around 35. You typically get around 40 gallons of sap for every 1 gallon of syrup. So I'm thinking that we're going to have at least 3 quarts, and when it gets down to about 2 gallons, 1.5 gallons, we're going to put it back into a stock pot, and then we're going to take it inside to boil, and we'll show you that. But likely we will be boiling for another, I think maybe 1 or 2 hours. Keep at it, so that way we can get between 1.5 and 2 gallons and put that in the stock pot. But we'll let you guys know how it goes. So far this boiling pan has worked out so much better than the stock pots, so I'm really glad that we've got this going. Everything's melting, there's slush and mud everywhere. So here's the maple finishing. We had it all the way to the top, as you can see from this gross, ashy, dirty ring. There's a lot of ash in it from boiling it outside, and it's since reduced a long ways, and it's getting hard to focus in here. So I'm just going to talk about the properties of finishing, so you don't really need to see anyway. Basically what you're doing is you're boiling off the remainder of the water until the sugar content in the syrup is 67.7%. Anything higher than that and it'll tend to crystallize, anything lower and it can mold in storage. Usually you'd measure by using a hydrometer, which measures the amount of water in the syrup, or you could use a candy thermometer, because syrup boils at 219 degrees as opposed to water, which boils at 210 degrees. So we don't have either of those. We had a candy thermometer, but it broke. So we're just boiling until we have about 1 gallon, which is coming up soon. And basically the way that we try to do it without a candy thermometer, what we've done so far is we'll put a ladle full in a jar, put it outside, and let it cool, and see how thick it is. We've done that so far. It's been still a little watery, so we don't want it to mold in storage. Though we use 1 gallon, it'll probably take us about 2 months to use 1 gallon. So yeah, it would definitely mold in storage. So we're just gonna wait until it's it's thicker when we put it outside. And what we'll do is we'll also filter it, because there's some more of this. It's like ash, and sometimes there's dirt that gets in the buckets while we're collecting and stuff like that. So we're just going to filter it through a coffee filter or some toilet paper, and that does a pretty good job. So when I said toilet paper or coffee filter, I lied. I forgot we have lots of cheesecloth, so we're using cheesecloth. Also, when you're done filtering, you can't forget to wring out your cheesecloth and lick your pan. Stick your head right in there and lick it, and lick your ladle.